method of attachment. In these cases, either try a stronger lanyard or reduce your chances of free fall by using a shorter lanyard or raise your tie-off point. Tying off around rough or sharp surfaces like I or H beams might weaken the line because of the cutting action of the beam's edge. If possible, try not to tie off around rough or sharp surfaces. Use either another means of attachment, such as a tie-off apparatus, or use effective padding or an abrasion-resistant strap. There are two kinds of snap hooks, locking and non-locking. The difference between locking and non-locking hooks can be important in avoiding rollout or having your hook open accidentally. Locking snap hooks are highly recommended. In order to prevent rollout with non-locking snap hooks, do not attach a non-locking snap hook in the following ways. Do not attach one snap hook to another or directly to a horizontal lifeline, back onto its own lanyard, to a D-ring that has another snap hook or other connector attached to it, to any object whose size or shape would allow it to open the snap hook keeper. D-rings should be large compared to hooks so that the ring will reach beyond the hook's keeper rather than pressing against it. After you've attached any snap hook, even the locking type, make sure it is securely closed and rollout is impossible. Body belts and harnesses must fit snugly. If your belt is too loose, there's a chance you could fall out of it. The front and side D-ring positions on belts are only for use with ladder safety devices and positioning systems. For fall arrest, the ring must be kept at your back. One worker on a scissor lift let his belt get turned so the ring was at his side. He also unlatched the gate safety chain so he could get closer and lost his balance and fell. At the end of his fall, he jackknifed sideways, breaking 3 ribs and injuring his back. The belt probably saved his life, but wearing it incorrectly caused serious injury. To keep from doubling over sideways or backwards, connect your belt or harness properly. Body belts must be attached in the center of your back, on or behind your hips. A harness can be attached in the center of your back at the shoulder level. Window cleaners must attach at least one belt terminal to its anchor before climbing out. Keep both terminals attached during cleaning. Do not clean windows from a sill that has snow or ice or that is weak. Never clean from a sill that is steeper than 30 degrees. When finished cleaning a window, leave at least one belt terminal attached until you're safely inside. Do not pass from one window to another outside the building. Go back inside and repeat the attachment procedure. Ladder safety devices are designed so that you can have both hands free for climbing. The connection between the device carrier's lifeline and your belt cannot be more than 9 inches long. This limits free fall, but it's enough to let you climb in a normal position. Do not climb while holding any objects. Either use belt hooks or use a rope to hoist them up. If a fall occurs, any employee suspended from a fall arrest system must be rescued safely and quickly. Your employer will provide a way for prompt recovery of fall victims. This can include a system for rescue by coworkers, a way of summoning a rescue squad, or some combination of these depending on your facility. All effective rescue systems involve advanced planning. Make sure you know what your company's rescue plan calls for you to do. Safety experts recommend thorough training with all rescue equipment at your facility. This can include ladders, hoists, man lifts, or ropes. If you need to contact outside help, know the fastest way of reaching them. Upon arrival at the rescue personnel should know what steps to take according to the circumstances and your company's rescue plan. And in most situations, fall protection should be used during the rescue. If possible, observe and monitor the victim to evaluate any additional medical help needed. Once reaching the victim by whatever means your company's rescue plan calls for, try to lower him as safely as possible. It makes sense that if you approach your rescue calmly, most likely the victim will remain calm. Equipment that is defective in any way must be identified and replaced at once. For this reason, you must inspect all personal fall protection systems before each use. Follow any instructions on inspection methods the manufacturer has provided, and look for anything that could make any items unsafe. Is any equipment cut, worn, or damaged? Do lanyards have any broken fibers, pulled stitches, damage, or wear? Do snap hooks close properly and lock securely? If any item is damaged or defective, remove it from service at once. Destroy it or mark it unusable. Any equipment that has been subject to impact loading must be inspected by a competent person before it can be used again. Personal fall protection systems can save your life. From lifeline to lanyard to harness or body belt, your employer will provide this equipment and teach you how to use it. Your part is to care for it properly and use it correctly whenever it is needed. If you lose your balance up here, you can fall and be stopped by a fall arrest system. Or if you fail to hook up, you can fall and be stopped by the concrete. Do it the right way. Hook up.
In the course of your training on chemical safety, you may have heard about material safety data sheets. During this program, you'll find out what material safety data sheets are and how you can use them to ensure your own safety on the job.
You'll hear a material safety data sheet referred to by its initials, MSDS. It's just an easier way to talk about a sometimes complicated piece of paper.
Material safety data sheets contain the information that you need to work with chemicals safely. Labels found on chemical containers provide valuable information that can alert you to hazards. But material safety data sheets provide expanded information on a particular chemical.
Your employer is responsible for having on file an MSDS for just about every chemical that you work with. The MSDS file is for your use and benefit and is provided by your employer and by the company that manufactured the chemical product. You should be able to ask to see a material safety data sheet whenever the need arises.
Let's look closely at an MSDS to see what useful information it contains. It will usually look similar to this, a sheet with headings representing different aspects of information about a particular chemical. The sheet will often be printed on both the front and back. Some companies keep MSDS information in a computer. Your supervisor can explain more about the format and exact location of the material safety data sheets in your workplace.
The information on a material safety data sheet won't do you much good if you're not familiar with certain scientific terms listed on it. Not many of us know the scientific language that chemical manufacturers use to describe their products. If you're in doubt about what something on an MSDS means, ask your supervisor to help you understand. Though you may know about boiling points and flash points, you may not be clear on the implications of solubility and ELVs. These terms and others can be explained with the help of your supervisor. Or you can check the definitions listed on the handout that accompanies this program. It will provide you with a ready reference for MSDS terminology.
Looking at the MSDS, you'll notice that it is made up of information divided into sections under headings. We'll review these headings so that you'll know what an MSDS looks like before we go into further detail.
At the top of the sheet is the chemical name, or names by which the chemical may be commonly known. Ethylene glycol is a chemical that has many trade names. So an MSDS for ethylene glycol may list the trade names of Lutrol 9, Meg, Tescol, or others. In practice, the name on the label in your workplace will be the name under which you will find the MSDS for the substance. Many sheets also will have a chemical abstract service registry number, abbreviated CAS. For ethylene glycol, the CAS number is 107-21-1. This number is used for every ethylene glycol product, regardless of the trade name or common name. So using the CAS number often will help you to find information on a chemical.
After you see the chemical name, it will be further described. There will be a heading called Physical Data. Here, the chemical is described so that you can recognize it by its physical characteristics. This data will include boiling point, vapor pressure and density, solubility in water, and other aspects that give it its own identification. The chemical's appearance and odor will also be described.
Another heading on the MSDS will be called Hazardous Ingredients. Here, the chemical manufacturer has listed any substance that the chemical contains which may be hazardous. Since some chemicals can be mixtures of more than one ingredient, the names of all the hazardous ingredients will be listed.
An important heading that you'll want to examine on a material safety data sheet is called Fire and Explosion Hazards. The circumstances under which the chemical may explode or catch on fire are detailed here. Appropriate extinguishers will be listed along with the recommended way to put out fire.
The heading called Reactivity Data tells you what conditions to avoid to keep dangerous chemical reactions from happening. For instance, it may be very important to keep a particular chemical dry.
Spill or leak procedures is a category that will list recommended ways to clean up or contain a spill. Also listed will be how to dispose of the chemical after a spill.
The health hazard data on an MSDS will tell you what, if any, dangers exposure to the chemical can pose to your health. This important section will identify how a chemical may affect your body or how it might get into your body. It will tell about routes of entry, such as by breathing or absorption through the skin, and effects of overexposure, such as burning skin and itchy eyes. Also included in this section will be actions you can take if you or a coworker are exposed to a hazardous chemical. These important emergency actions may include washing the area exposed, or calling an ambulance, or removing the victim from the area.
You'll be very interested in the section on special protection. Here you can find out what gear you should wear to protect yourself from a particular chemical that you're working with. This may include gloves, a certain type of respirator, and special clothing.
The last heading on the MSDS that we'll mention is called Special Precautions. Here, the chemical manufacturer lists warnings about handling, use and storage, as well as recommended labeling procedures.
Thus, the Material Safety Data Sheet is an encyclopedia of information pertaining to a particular chemical. It is an extension of the information that you'll find on a label, providing an in-depth profile of the chemicals in your work area. Its main purpose is to give you the facts you need to know concerning your own safety.
When might it be a good idea to see a material safety data sheet? Though you don't need a reason to request an MSDS for a chemical that you work with, there are many reasons for doing so.
Maybe you're working with a new chemical and you begin to show symptoms of a reaction. You feel dizzy and notice other symptoms that you've never had before. Take time to check the material safety data sheet for the new chemical. You may not be taking the right precautions. The MSDS will help you find the problem.
Perhaps you have a medical condition, such as asthma. A doctor advises you to find out more about the health hazards of several chemicals that you've been working with. In a situation like this, you should consult the material safety data sheets in your work area.
Maybe you're working with a new chemical that is labeled as a carcinogen. You're not sure what carcinogen means, so you ask your supervisor to help you understand the material safety data sheet for that chemical.
What if a new chemical is being unloaded at the plant? An accident occurs that causes a spill or leak. You're responsible for cleanup and disposal. Consult the material safety data sheet for that chemical to make sure you and your coworkers are taking the right precautions.
If you work in a laboratory, you're probably involved in mixing various chemicals together. You'll want to make sure that you know the necessary reactivity data for each of those chemicals. Consult the material safety data sheets. If it says, use with adequate ventilation, you may need to perform the mixing under a vent hood. And if you don't understand the precautions, ask someone who does.
You'll especially want to check a material safety data sheet if you've been contaminated from a spill. Did you take the right steps in dealing with the emergency? Are further precautions necessary?
What if, after a few years on the job, you're thinking about having a baby? Are there any substances that you work with that might be harmful to you during a pregnancy or might affect your ability to father a child? The MSDS will give you the information that is available. Ask your supervisor to help you find the answers you need.
Or maybe you've just been transferred to a new work area. The precautions that you learned to take in your old work area are not a part of the new procedures, even though you're working with the same chemicals. What does the material safety data sheet say about it?
In most of these situations, a material safety data sheet can help you make the right decision. Remember that taking care of yourself is the best protection against any on-the-job hazard. Let's review some of the points we've covered about material safety data sheets.
An MSDS is an information sheet describing a particular chemical. There should be an MSDS available for your inspection for every chemical that you work with. Your supervisor can tell you where to find the material safety data sheets for your area. A typical MSDS will contain information regarding
the chemical name and manufacturer, as well as the CAS number in many cases.
It will outline the physical data pertaining to the chemical,
hazardous ingredients,
fire and explosion hazards,
reactivity data,
spill or leak procedures,
health hazard data,
special protection,
and special precaution.
Remember, the that keeping employees safe from chemicals which may be hazardous is a main concern of your employer. Knowing about and using a material safety data sheet when working with hazardous chemicals is the best way to take care of yourself.